As Ellie and Dina head to the hospital to look for Abby's friend Nora, Dina reveals a bit about her past and reiterates her commitment to their revenge quest. Now, look, I'm glad that Dina has a more active role to play in the story being told here, but her new role seems to take away from Ellie's own agency. Like, Dina's backstory is admittedly interesting, but it only exists so that Dina can reinforce the way that Ellie feels about Abby, which feels so completely unnecessary to me. The audience is already on board with Ellie's revenge quest, so taking the time to justify it feels like an odd creative choice, especially since Dina takes a brief moment to directly contradict herself later in the episode. But I'll get back to that in a second. So Ellie and Dina end up getting ambushed by a group of stalkers in an abandoned warehouse, but just as things are about to get ugly, Jesse comes to their rescue. Yes, Jesse and Tommy both came to Seattle to look for the two girls, and Jesse managed to get to them first, as Tommy is still out doing, I don't know, Tommy things. But when Jesse reveals that they intend to take the girls back to Jackson, Ellie obviously objects, while Dina seems to be surprised by her objection for some reason. And I genuinely have no idea why. She just told Ellie that she would literally spend forever looking for her own family's killer, so why would she expect anything less from Ellie herself? If the point of that story wasn't to tell Ellie that it's okay for her to waste her time looking for Abby, then what exactly was it for? I don't know, man, but as Ellie and the gang get pursued by some WLF members, they end up in a local park where they witness the Seraphites hanging and disemboweling a WLF soldier. And this is exactly how the Seraphites should have been introduced. This should have been a terrifying and a mortifying scene, but its impact has been lessened by the fact that we've seen the Seraphites in two separate sequences that were both meant to make us feel sympathy for them. So our perception of them here is in the opposite order of our perception of them in the video game. In the game, we go from thinking that the Scars are some terrifyingly inhumane cult members to understanding that there are actually a few good people who happen to live among the more extremist members. But here, we go from thinking that the Seraphites are an innocent group of people to understanding that they're actually just as bad, if not worse, than the WLF. That they can indeed be terrifyingly inhumane. And that change in perception will have an effect on the story being told here, so I don't understand why the order of operations was changed in the first place. Regardless, Dina ends up getting shot in the leg with an arrow, so Jesse carries her out of the park while Ellie creates a diversion to attract the Seraphites. After evading them, she continues to head to the hospital alone, where she does end up finding Nora. But Nora refuses to give up Abby's location, and she reveals that she thinks that Joel absolutely got what he deserved, which causes an angered Ellie to chase her through the hospital. That chase eventually leads Nora into the quarantined basement that is covered in airborne cordyceps spores, which causes Nora to become infected. And I was wondering how this scene was going to play out since spores are a big part of the game, but they don't actually exist in the series. Well, I guess they're just part of the show now, with no real explanation as to why. I mean, I think it's supposed to tie into the idea that the infection has been evolving over the years, but since that concept was already explored with the introduction of the Stalkers, it almost feels a little redundant here. So I guess the real answer as to why the showrunners decided to introduce spores now is that they didn't know how to rewrite this scene without having spores present. And that does make the scene feel a little anticlimactic when compared to its video game counterpart, but whatever, I guess. The scene is still inherently good, it just doesn't pack the same kind of punch as the video game. Especially since the scene is meant to show us how Ellie is going too far with her revenge quest, but as I mentioned earlier, the episode went out of its way to justify Ellie's actions to the audience, so I'm not sure what the show is trying to make me feel. It's almost like the show is sending me mixed messages here. It actively wants me to root for Ellie as she goes on this revenge quest, but it also wants me to think that there are lines that Ellie shouldn't cross. But the show can't have its cake and eat it too. Either Ellie's revenge quest is wrong and I should be rooting for her to not go through with it, or her revenge quest is justified and I shouldn't be feeling like she's taking anything too far. It can't be both. And for the record, I'm someone who believes that Ellie definitely went too far in the video game. I personally did not agree with the actions she took on her revenge quest, and thought she was throwing her life away just to go on this stupid vendetta of hers. But so much has changed here that I'm not sure if I believe that this iteration of Ellie is going too far, especially since she seems to lack the same kind of conviction as her video game counterpart. I mean, the version of Ellie from the video game did not need to have her actions justified by anybody, after all. And she never really found out why Abby killed Joel in the first place, because that information never mattered to her, and nobody in Abby's group cared enough about Ellie to tell her. So I don't know how I feel about Nora giving her that information in this episode, because knowing why she did it should fundamentally change the way that Ellie perceives Abby, which also fundamentally changes my perception of the story being told here. But even though I personally have some issues with the changes in the storytelling, I'm curious to know how viewers who haven't played the video game are feeling about this season. Especially considering that this episode ends with Ellie brutally beating Nora to death in a scene that is clearly meant to mirror Abby beating Joel to death. Meaning that if you did take issue with the way that Abby killed Joel, then you should also take issue with the way that Ellie killed Nora, because that's the whole point of the story. But I have a sneaking suspicion that that's not the way people feel about the scene. So despite how technically well done everything is, I'm not sure if the show has done a great job of adapting this part of the video game story. And with only 2 episodes left to go, I'm not sure if this season is going to reach a satisfying conclusion. Especially since the penultimate episode looks like it's going to be entirely set in flashbacks. And don't get me wrong, I did love the flashback sequence in the video game, but the flashback wasn't the second to last mission in the video game. So as much as I'm looking forward to seeing Pedro Pascal again, his flashback episode does come at the expense of changing the structure of the story being told. I mean, hopefully the episode will end up being good, but I guess we'll see how the penultimate episode of the second season will actually turn out to be once it gets released on Sunday.